Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have kids, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Great to see you. Welcome to my home, welcome to the office, and welcome to the morning grind. I'm so glad to have you. I see we got Robert and Sable Phoenix this morning. Good morning. Great to see you. I know you have to run, but great to see you, Sable. I'm glad you're here. And Better with Bacon, and Mike is here. And welcome, Tabletop Scholar. I hope everybody is having a wonderful morning. Let's see. As far as, our main topic today is going to be this right here, which I have not seen with a different RPG before. This is the Nimble Creators Kit. So Nimble has a very permissive license for creating material for it. And I haven't seen, tell me if there's one that I've missed someplace, but that in addition to the license and the, of course, the game itself, something that actually helps you create content for the game the way the designer intended, or at least, with the designer's guidelines, but the designer providing guidelines for the game. It says on the back here, welcome all creators. These guidelines are here to help you craft content that plays fast, fun, and in tune with the spirit of the game. Think of them as a launch pad, not a rule book carved in stone. Once you've got a handle on what makes Nimble tick, feel free to bend, twist, or toss these suggestions aside to suit your vision. Understanding the framework is just the first step. Breaking these guidelines for good reason is where the magic happens. So dive in, experiment, and start creating. So we're going to be taking a look at this today. We're going to be taking a look at the soft copy, actually. I've got the PDF up here, but I am holding a hard copy in my hand because I was actually sent, and thank you very much to Evan, the core box set, which happened to come with the creator's kit. Now, I have not opened the box set itself yet. It is right here because we're going to do it on stream, not today, but we will do a stream where we open up the box and see what is inside. It's a nice little size right here. So, but this is the core box right here, and it's fantastic. So I really appreciate that. We're going to take a look at that, but then that also came in the package that I received, this Nimble's creator kit. So there we go. We will do another Nimble stream. There'll be another Nimble stream where we open up the box set. And I did say that we've got Dragonbane over there. And I also realized as I was looking around, as far as another unboxing to do, it looks like we never opened up Aliens. I've got right here, I've got the Aliens starter set from Free League. And it's still sitting here in the shrink wrap. So we haven't opened up that one either. So we have 3 things to open up sometime here on the morning grind soon. Okay, announcements. What kind of hey Doc, good morning. So what's been going on? Well, I'm wearing around. I did open up the pledge manager. Oh, Doc Flamingo, hey, member for 19 months says woot. So the thank you, Doc. I'm still waiting on our proofs of our games to come in. So that will still be a little while, a few more days. But I have been wearing around the shirts. So what I've been wearing lately is the shirts so that, I can, try them out and things like that. So I'm wearing the Cultist Coffee shirt right now. They wear really well, but take a look at how large this is. The camera doesn't look fuzzy to me, Mike. I can check over here, though. But I've been wearing them around. Maybe I need to refocus or something. That was I don't know. It looks good over here. Let's see. So I've been wearing the shirts around. I mean, I really like I'm still really liking them. I wore them for the past 3 days. So this is Cultist Coffee, and take a look at how large this is printed. I really like that it's really large on the shirt. The other one that I had were kind of small up here. Hey Trey, well let me see. Hang on. Other people are saying that it's fuzzy. What? Click to focus. Autofocus. Want me to come out and come back in? I'll go out and I'll come back in. Just 1 second. And then we'll see. Because I'm looking at my cameras and the focus and stuff like that, and I'm not seeing anything. So let me go out of this recording session and come back in and see if that helps anything. Just 1 second. We'll see if that helps any. So there we go. But anyway, like I was saying, yes, they're printed really large, and so I really like that. So there's plenty of space that for the design to be visible and things like that. Oh, the tabletop scholar says better. Okay, so maybe it was just something that needed a quick reset. Okay, I'm glad. So that's where we are. I'm wearing around the shirts. but they look good. I did release the Pledge Manager, so if you have not done your Pledge Manager, I'm getting the funds for the shirts, the funds for everything for shipping. That did also open it so that if you have not pledged for the Cultist Kickstarter, just look up the Cultists RPG on Kickstarter, and you'll have the shirts and everything like that. And I believe that you can come in on a late pledge. Should be able to go to Pledge Manager if you haven't pledged yet. You should be able to select one if you haven't done that already, and you can also upgrade there. But if you will, go ahead and go ahead and take care of shipping, but also let me know what your shirt size is so that I can order the shirts. So I'll post an update about that, reminding everybody. But if you have not got one of the shirts, or if you're here and you want one, like for instance, this the Cultist Coffee shirt that is on the Kickstarter, and let me know the design and the shirt size. That way, I'll put together a list, and I will order those at about the same time that I order the actual books. So they can ship out. I mean, assuming the last thing we basically have to check is the books to make sure that the proofs are right. If they're not right, then it'll take a little bit longer to get them revised and sent. But if everything goes correctly, then when I order the books, I'll also order the shirts, and then we will ship them out. Also, now I'm talking with Brianna this afternoon. There's one final thing there. I don't want to talk too much about it, but Brianna has come up with a different way to move forward on her projects. Brianna, if you don't know, is the co-writer and director on the Cultists, the 2 seasons of the Cultists. She was trying to move forward with her filmmaking and film career, and she was trying to work on a short film with the intention of making a really high quality short film to kind of be an additional calling card of hers to make additional films. But she's decided to basically go a different direction. And I don't think I don't know how much she's been talking about this, but she's decided to go a different direction, and basically over the last week. So she spoke with somebody who is, my understanding, is basically going to be a consulting producer on a film. So this person recommended that instead of trying to do the short film, that she has enough experience with the Cultist to go ahead and do a feature film. And that it would be easier to raise money for a feature film that could potentially be sold. Low budget, but instead of trying to raise, this much money for a short, then try to raise this much money for a feature film. And she said it'll be easier to raise. And so Brianna has decided to accept, and they had their first real business meeting yesterday. And then Brianna and I are going to be talking this afternoon. So I'm excited about that. So there's a new direction there, and I guess we'll keep you up to date on that. I'm sure she'll be putting stuff out on her newsletter and things like that. So I hope that that goes well, and that something comes out of that. So it is exciting. Yes. So she may be on later to on Table Talk or something to talk about it. We will see. But I'm going to talk with her this afternoon and get the down and the low on everything. So that's basically where we are with all of that. I will definitely do that. I will definitely let her know that everybody here on the Morning Grind is cheering for her. We both need some serious forward momentum. I mean, Brianna especially. So I'm really happy about that too. And I want her to get some momentum. We need some momentum. So, all right. So we're going to take a look at the Nimble Creators Kit, but we do need to breathe and sip first. So here is, you know what? I got the Cultist Coffee shirt on, and I've got the Cultist Coffee mug. So perfect. I matched this morning. I have some tea this morning. So let's go ahead and breathe and sip, and then we will take a look at the Creators Kit. So here we go. Let's 2 deep breaths, deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. So here we go. Let's breathe. And sip. All right. Trey asks, not to be a pest, did we review the GM's guide? No, I have not looked at the GM's guide yet. Have not done that. We just went through the player's handbook, and we didn't take a look at a lot of like how to make characters. Well, you may be right. I have a feeling some of it may come up in the creator's kit. Well, yeah, maybe we should have gone to the GM's guide. Maybe that'll have to be another day, but we'll just see. I'm really curious about this. I did like read a couple of pages because I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this before, but it makes so much sense. Especially, I think if you are creating one, like some of these, it seems like you need to create a guide for yourself as you're creating material for it. Um, and so why not kind of put this out in this small little kit here and help people. So we'll see. So I think this is what we read in the beginning right here. Yes. Documented here to help craft content that plays fast, fun, and in tune with the spirit of the game. Okay. So 1, avoid fiddliness. Fiddliness is clunky, overly complex, or tedious mechanics. Oh, let me put the comments on the stage. Forgot about that. Okay, so fiddliness is clunky, overly complex, or tedious mechanical overhead that slows down play and distracts from the core fun. Can I do this in fewer steps? A single in-game action should typically take only a single real-world action to resolve. Fight the urge to add steps, saves, extra dice, etc. when possible. Ask if the effect can simply happen automatically or when something else does. How long an action takes to resolve isn't about being in a hurry. It's about concentrating on the fun. Fiddly mechanics dilute the fun, spreading the same amount of fun over the longer period of time. Oh, I like that. So how long an action takes to resolve isn't about being in a hurry. It's about concentrating the fun. Fiddly mechanics dilute the fun, spreading the same amount of fun over a longer period of time. For example, monster armor. Initially in development, it reduced damage by a flat amount. Mathematically, this worked, but mechanically, it added an additional step to resolve. It didn't take very long, but multiplied over thousands of attacks and encounters, or thousands of attacks, dozens of attacks, or thousands of attacks in a campaign. It was suboptimal solution since it took up a significant amount of time. Right. So we were wondering, how did monster armor work? We looked that up. The players use a reaction to use their armor, which a reaction which is defend to use their armor. There was medium armor and heavy armor for monsters, and it had something to do with a resistance. If they had that, then they got a resistance. Yeah, this is a nice, like, I didn't have my trays talking about I may have to get this box set. I wanted to get it, and he sent this to me to review on the grind, and I'm very, very appreciative of it because it looks like a very nice box set. But I was wondering, what's the size here? And I don't have a, I'm kind of on the 6x9 kick for what I've been creating, but the this is a really nice, like, digest size. This is like a digest size book. I thought that originally, like when I saw it online, that it was like the standard, like Dungeons and Dragons book size, the big ones, but it's not. It's like a digest size one. It's really nice. And on the website, I also thought that it was a slipcase, but it's not. This is actually a box. And so I can't even see what's inside it. Trey says, I've been stuck on a nimble kick. I've been stuck on a nimble kick for the last month or so. If you know my TTRPG ADHD, you would know that it's centuries for me. No. Like, that's what, like, this traditional D&D is, like A4 or A5. This is, I don't have a, I was looking around here at my desk because ordinarily I have something to measure with, but I do not. Well, hang on. This is 6x9. Okay, so the box set is a little bit larger than 6x9. So the books inside might be 6x9. Okay, or a little bit smaller. They might be 6x8. Holding up something that I know is 6x9. So yes, so talking about, okay, why are we not subtracting damage? I guess this is the opposite of GURPS. Attacks. There are a lot of different things that you do in GURPS to decide where decide something like an attack action. attack, defend, roll damage, subtract armor, multiply for damage type, subtract from hit points. The philosophy here is to not do that. So asking the question, can I do this in fewer steps, is how Nimble landed on how monster armor currently works. Same end result, but with fewer mechanics getting in the way. This means more time for additional combat, story, role-playing, and goofing off. We find a way to eliminate as many steps as possible. Think of it this way for all of your design. Recognize how many steps are needed to resolve an action and eliminate as many as possible. Think of how it will be physically resolved at the table. And of course, I guess that's also with the philosophy of there's no to hit roll, right? It's just rolling damage. Oh! Did I not? Did I get A4 or A5 5 paper size wrong? Maybe I did. Trace says the books included in the Nimble box set are A5. I don't know A5. I know letter size. This means the books have dimensions of approximately 5 by 8 by 8.3. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so I didn't know what A4 and A5 paper size was, apparently. Thank you for the correction, Trey. Find a way to eliminate as many steps as possible, and think of this all the way through your design. Recognize how many steps are needed to resolve an action, and then eliminate as many as possible. Think of how it will be physically resolved at the table. I do really want to try something with the just rolling damage and make that by class and see how that works. Can I make the calculation easier? Math is inextricably tied to RPGs. It's part of the fun, but we should avoid anything but the simplest, quickest calculations that can be done in one's head. Even very simple calculations, when there are a lot of them, can grind down play to a halt and kill momentum. So we should avoid rolling and summing too many dice at a time. Summing at most 3 to 4 smaller dice or 2 to 3 larger dice is a good rule of thumb. More than that, the players will often have to hunt for extra dice, roll them, increasing the odds that one lands cocked, rolled off the table, eating up more time, and adding them all up takes longer as well. Rolling lots of dice is fun sometimes. It can quickly turn into a chore and add slog to the game when required too often. Lots of dice eliminate variability as well. The more dice that are rolled, the more likely you'll end up with an average result. A fistful of dice should be special and rare. When possible, think of creative solutions that will more quickly generate high numbers. In the core, we use level, D20s, D100s, DXX, or flat damage. Condemn deals flat 30 damage. This could have been 12d4 or 9d6. That would have dealt the same amount of damage, but would have taken much, much longer to accomplish. Yeah, there is like a subclass design jam going on right now. There sure is. Yes, Better with Bacon says, oh, I'm on the website at the moment, and it looks like Nimble holds a design jam. I was looking at something about that on the, well, actually, I think it was posted over to the website, but I saw that on the Discord server. There's some kind of design jam for a subclass right now. Exceptions. Iconic or very large spells, tier 8 or 9, or abilities that happen rarely once per safe rest can bend or break this rule of thumb. Cantrips or abilities that could happen multiple times in an encounter or even multiple times, each turn should especially be quick to resolve. Cantrips or abilities that can happen multiple times in an encounter or even multiple times should be especially quick to resolve. Build mechanics where players can immediately see the result rather than find the result, adding dice. I like that too. That phrase. You need to be able to see the result rather than trying to find the result. Rolling 1d12 with advantage is easier than rolling and adding 2d8. Both have a similar average result. One requires no math, and the other one does. Avoid dividing anything by other than 1/2, and even that shouldn't happen too often. Avoid multiplying difficult numbers. Times 2 is easy, times 13 is not. Avoid adding multi-digit numbers. +2 + 2 is easy. 7 + 16 is a bit harder. Again, this isn't that players can't perform these operations. It's that they take longer than necessary and add bits of friction to the game. These add up, stealing valuable brain space, killing momentum, and creating slog. So where is it that you want the game to focus on? Like, and what's a, when I think about like all of the damage, all the rolls required to resolve a GURPS combat, this guy may be, a little bit better at this. This guy could be a little bit better at that, and stuff. It's like, okay, where do you want the? And so any of those are possible points where the attack can not hit, right, or cannot be effective in some way. I guess this is saying like, where is it that our biggest point of failure could possibly be, and then stick with that. So design around easy increments such as 2, 5, and 10 as flat modifiers when possible. Avoid adding multiple large dice. For instance, rolling 4d6 and summing the result of 3, 4, 1, and 5 is easy. Rolling 4d12 and the results of 7, 5, 9, and 11 is a bit harder. Rolling 4d20 and get a result of 7, 16, 19, and 14 is more challenging still. Says much easier would be something like 2d6 plus 5, 1d12 plus 20, and 1d20 plus 30, respectively. They have similar average results, but resolve much more quickly. For instance, look at how the cheats sneak attack began its development, as much as 10d6 at high levels, to where it ended up in the final version, 1d20 plus 20. Much better. Conditions, tracking game states. Be very careful with conditions and other game states that need to be tracked. Mechanics like this are really great for video games where the computer can handle the fiddliness. But for manually resolving tabletop RPGs, it can become a big headache. These frequently result in interrupting the flow as players remind others of this ongoing state, adding friction and slowing play down. With this in mind, damage over time should be avoided completely. All damage should be resolved as the attack resolves. Conditions that have a visual component like prone are easy to remember since you can physically knock the miniature over to represent it. Other conditions that cannot be represented visually should be minimized. Monsters are heroes that can apply one condition, or temporary conditions that last only a single round are fine. When there are multiple different conditions that track simultaneously, the fun doesn't increase. The more to track, generally the fun decreases. If something must be tracked, make it easy as possible. For instance, see the Hexbinder class. All of their afflictions apply only to a single monster, and other players need not remember any of them. So maintain the flow. So I think we're good with this without having gone through the Game Master's Guide first. This is very much about the spirit here, which is good to know. Also important, like if you're thinking about picking up the RPG, maintain the flow. Play proceeds most quickly when each player can take their turn without interruption and without waiting on anybody else. This is flow. Actions that interrupt the flow should ideally be important and rare. Failing that, they should at least happen asynchronously. Now, that's also one that I think about quite a bit. When each player can take their turn without interruption and without waiting for anyone else, or needing to get, and by waiting, that can also be getting information from somebody else. Like, do you have everything that you need to complete your turn? When it's your turn, do you have everything necessary to execute your turn? If the answer is no, then it's going to slow things down. If you're attacking, in index card, the target, because the target number is sitting there on the table for any given scene. The target's sitting right there. So on your turn, I know I need to roll, and I know exactly what I need to hit, and then I have damage. You have all of that. If you don't know, and then you just report the damage to the game master. If you don't have that, if you don't know what you have to roll to hit, then you have to ask somebody. Or if you need, if the other person has to actively defend themselves, you don't know whether or not you can actually execute your turn until somebody else is there, with you. Hey, you're being attacked, roll. In Hero Quest, that is the case. Zargon has to be involved in a defense of the monsters. Mike says, you can see their game philosophy represented in this advice. Exactly. Much of what may be a good general design advice. I think so. Yeah. Actions that interrupt the flow should ideally be important and rare. Failing that, they should at least happen asynchronously. Important and rare. A great example of this is interposing for a dying ally. This is both a very important and likely to happen only on an occasion. Asynchronous. Defending does technically interrupt the flow and can happen rather commonly each turn and is relatively low impact. The saving grace is that it happens asynchronously or off turn. A hero choosing to defend can privately calculate their HP without slowing anything else down. The GM doesn't care or need to know when the hero defends. That's between them and their character sheet. The fiddliness, especially if it disrupts the flow, should happen off turn whenever possible. See the Oathsworn's Judgment dice and the Berserkers. That's all you've got. Those dice are rolled or expended when it's not their turn. No one else needs to wait for these actions to resolve. So the person's just calling out, okay, I defend. And also, on the other hand, this is also giving people something to do when it's not their turn. And I do like that because this is using reactions and stuff. So that's available things for you to do when it's not your turn. So that's also keeping people engaged when it's not their turn. The worst offender. Oh, look, that's exactly what we're talking about, getting information. Did I not just say that? That's what this is one of the reasons why I wanted to look at this game so badly, because like so many of the different things that we bring up so often seem to have been incorporated in this game, or at least that I bring up. And I was just talking about information. I swear I hadn't read that in advance. So it says the worst offender for breaking flow is any mechanic that requires information from another player before proceeding. E.g., in the older D20 games, rolling versus AC, rolling initiative or saving throws. These are common. They happen every attack and are often low impact. It would not be game breaking if they just happened, and they completely halt for play, and they completely halt for everyone until multiple steps and back and forth is resolved. Avoid these mechanics like the plague if you want the game to run smoothly. That's why saves should be quite rare and meaningful. If a save must take place, consider if you can have it not tied to damage, but an additional secondary effect. That way, if 3 or 4 targets die first, you only need to roll 1 save instead of 4. Saves should be saved for very meaningful, e.g. ones that have very powerful conditions or uncommonly used abilities, like once per encounter. Cantrips and low-level spells should not require a save or any other feedback from other players. Take a look at how these spells changed over the course of playtesting. Trey says, I'm also a huge fan that they give you guidance on how to build your own classes and monsters. Many of my games are based on the Ghibli style. That is how you say that, right? I don't think I've ever heard that pronounced because I'm not in that world. Shaw Brothers and Akira Kurosawa movie settings. So older version is Entice, for instance. Yeah, we were about to get to that because they do. And, that was actually part of the difficulty. I was never successful in trying to create like some kind of different world or something within Pathfinder. Second edition, it just never happened because it was so it's very tight, and it makes Pathfinder, right? And it doesn't, like, how you take that and you start to try to unspool it and get to something else, and you don't have guidance. If you'd had guidance about, okay, if you're trying to start from 0 and you're just trying to use this Pathfinder philosophy, here's what you would do. It's not there. So Entice, the old version, says Entice, cantrip, 1 action, single target. Will save. The target takes 1d6 damage and moves 2 spaces closer to you. Repeat until they save. Note that this initial version potentially required numerous save rolls and damage rolls. Combined that with this being a low impact cantrip, it should conceivably be cast 3 or more times every round. It could conceivably be cast 3 or more times every round. It took far too long to resolve the single spell, so it was simplified to resolve very quickly, and a small bonus was added to compensate. So now, okay, we're still a cantrip, 1 action, single target. Damage 1d4, ignoring armor. On hit, target moves 2 spaces closer to you. So it became 1d4, but it ignores armor and moves 2 spaces closer to you. The final version uses a single roll to both determine damage and movement. Because it is on a hit. So I guess so a 1 is a miss, right? So on a hit, the target moves 2 spaces closer to you. Because a 1 could be a miss, or would be a miss. The final version uses a single roll to both determine what the damage and movement instead of a save. A d4 was used as the damage die to put a reasonable limit on how often this can take place. The d4 is most likely to miss when cast multiple times. Similarly, let's take a look at the initial version of Vicious Mockery, which is a cantrip, 1 action, will save, 1d6 psychic damage. The target's next attack is made with disadvantage, plus 1d6 damage every 5th level. Note this initial version breaks many of my guidelines, or the guidelines. It is a low-impact cantrip that requires a save. It lacks clarity. If I land this twice, are the next 2 attacks with disadvantage, or the next single attack made with disadvantage 2. And the spell adds dice as it levels up to a maximum of 5d6 at level 20. Too fiddly, too slow. Here's the updated final version. Vicious Mockery. Damage, 1d4 plus int, psychic, ignoring armor. On hit, the target is taunted during their next turn. Plus 2 damage every 5 levels. The final version of the spell does essentially the same thing, but a small amount of damage and a debuff. But it does so in a more streamlined, clear, fun, and intuitive way. Special attention must go toward ensuring that every action is simple and quick to resolve. Each step doesn't take long, but when multiplied across every attack every round, it adds up to a slog. People start checking their phones, losing interest, and you can't do as much cool stuff. Flow should be maximized and interruptions minimized. If there's an interruption, it should be minimal in terms of how long it takes to resolve, big in terms of the result it has on the game state, heroic or conniving for the bad guys, and rare. The source of fun. The fun comes from how all of these simple pieces interact with how each other and their heroes, with each other, and how the heroes and monsters shape the story. Complex rules elements at that time a long time. Complex rules elements that time a long time to physically perform. That may be supposed to take. That take a long time to physically perform. Don't add to the fun, they detract from it. Yeah, so here's our notes on actually designing classes, which might be important. You're talking about the design jam with the designing a subclass. So here's the philosophy on class design. I'm very glad that we have this. The Tabletop Scholar says, I don't know, D4s can add some time to roll. Picking those up, yikes. Well, there are alternate D4s. So. Front load the fun, but don't overwhelm. It's not very fun to have to wait until 14th plus to see a hero build fully come online. Try hard to front load the really cool things by level 3 to 7 without making the very early levels overly complicated or busy. A class should feel quite complete by then, with additional levels simply giving more options and power, but the class fantasy should already be essentially fully locked. Level 1 should give a small taste of the unique mechanics of the class. Think simple and flavorful. Level 1 should not include any additional choices. There are enough choices being made at level 1 already. Class, ancestry, stats, background, etc. No need to slow things down further. That's interesting too. So, I mean, if you're creating the character, you're already choosing your class, your ancestry, your stats, your background. Do you need to make class decisions as well? He's saying no, that simplify it by making the class have no choices at that level. I like that. Level 2. You can introduce 1 or 2 pieces of additional mechanical complexity. For instance, mana, more options to use their resource, or just not too much. Level 3, subclass choice. Okay, so subclass comes in at level 3. Each subclass should push the class in one particular direction: more offensive, more defensive, better at range, better at buffing allies, better at hindering enemies, etc. It says utility. Around levels 2 to 4, a class will typically get some fun out of combat utility. Get some fun out of a combat utility ability as well. Level 4. By now, you're nearing a fully fledged hero. Typically introduces a big choice from among the list of class options, like Savage Arsenal or Underhanded abilities. Classes with a lot going on already have their options at later levels. Simpler classes may have options more frequently. Aim to have enough options so that by level 20, a hero would have chosen roughly 1/2 to 2/3 of them. Level 5 to 10, typically a big damage. 5 and 10, typically a big damage increase or other large jump in power level. Levels 7, 11, and 15, additional subclass boons. Do something you can already do, but much better and more often. And I do like that too. That you're not doing a lot of different stuff. You're doing what you already do better. Yeah. Levels 4, 8, 12, and 16 key stat increase and an optional, optionally another small boost, like unlocking an additional tier of spells. 5, 9, 13, and 17 secondary stat increase and a larger boost. 18, 19, and 20 big features, level 18, epic boon, level 19, capstone, level 20. Very few people will ever reach levels 10 to 12. Even fewer reach beyond those levels, but don't let this stop you from really putting in the work to make sure the higher levels remain interesting. Level 20 in particular should be a big dream type of ability, something players can think about, theory craft with, and imagine being awesome using it. It should serve as motivation to play the class, even if they never reach level 20, as it's fun to dream how awesome it would be. So here's your table right here at different levels and what should be happening with a class. I like that. It says, note, this framework feature is only a starting point. If a class has other core abilities like spellcasting or sneak attack, the cadence may vary slightly. Full spellcasters gain a new spell tier every other level. Half casters may gain new spells slightly slower. So it says resting. There are no abilities that recharge on field rests. Field rest should be identical for every class. I think we talked about that last time when we were looking at the book. Hey, Michael, good morning. So it says field rest should be identical for every class. They are only to regain lost HP. Otherwise, the party can be divided, some wanting to continue adventuring, others wanting to rest after every encounter. See 5e Warlock and Monk as somewhat infamous examples of this dynamic. Players will often adopt optimal but unfun play patterns if allowed. Don't create mechanics that incentivize playing unheroically or annoyingly. Don't create mechanics that incentivize playing annoyingly. I like that too. GMs can disallow frequent rests at their table by forcing random encounters upon the party, but that just further slows down the story and is a band-aid. Or they can homebrew a rule, but they risk becoming the bad guy, not letting their players play how they want. Best to have the rules as written be the bad guy. Don't incentivize sitting around to doing nothing. The optimal thing should be the most fun and the most heroic thing. Hoarding and going Nova. Intelligently saving and using resources can be very fun, but their extremes, hoarding, it's never spending resources, and going Nova, immediately spending all of your resources, are both generally unfun play patterns, since it can trivialize challenging encounters, or characters can feel underpowered or bored if they've spent all of their resources and have no way to regain it, or are afraid to spend them. Also, frequently players will guess incorrectly when to hoard, going back to town with plenty of mana remaining, and when to spend their resources. There's another big monster right around the corner. Lean toward per encounter and similar abilities, and you can encourage wise spending of resources by allowing heroes to regain a small amount of spent resources temporarily. Lane protection. Be careful not to step on the toes of other classes. Maintain the unique mechanics and flavor of each class. No two classes should deal damage the same way, avoid damage the same way, or move around the same way. They should all fill a unique role and feel different to play. No class other than the mage should have access to 3 spell schools and deal damage primarily through spending mana to cast spells. No other class should get their damage increased when they are attacked or be able to freely interpose. That's the domain of the Oathsworn. Says retraining. In Nimble, heroes can retrain chosen abilities during a safe rest, but think of fun thematic tasks for the hero can perform to engage the world and role play the means by which they choose these new skills. Think of ways to get heroes to look for new NPCs, new areas, and ask questions of the GM to retrain. This allows the GM to introduce important new allies, environs, or even new problems and quests. The local soldier or wizard who retrains the mage commander may ask for a favor afterward. It says, as far as multi-classing goes, it says, don't worry about building a balancing class and subclass with multi-classing in mind. That will exponentially complicate your work and dilute the fun of the base class. It's okay for multi-classing to be overpowered, easy to break, and a bit silly. Let it happen and leave it to local GMs to adjudicate or even not to allow it. Okay, clear and concise wording. Avoid overly wordy explanations designed to block rules lawyers, those who might exploit technicalities, since this can make the rules harder to read and less enjoyable for most players. Write in a way that's clear and concise instead of exhaustive detail that tries to cover every possible loophole. Trust the heroes and GM to interpret the rules sensibly, and don't let the fear of rules lawyers bog down your writing with complexity. If you can also prevent rules exploitation without making the text longer or harder to read, that's fine, but never sacrifice readability for it. So, for example, take the bird folk ancestry boon that was initially worded, you have a fly speed as long as you're wearing leather or lighter armor, compared to how it ended up in the final version. You have a fly speed as long as you're wearing armor no heavier than leather. Both are brief and easy to read, but the second also prevents the GM from having to deal with unfun technicalities. But I'm wearing plate and leather armor, so right, yes. So someone say, fly as long as you were wearing light leather or lighter armor. Yeah, I'm wearing my plate armor, but I'm also wearing the leather armor, and that's what it says, but that's not what's going on. So in this case, it's simplified and took away that potential headache technicality. Yeah, Mike says, I love the idea they trust the GM and table not to be foolish with rules and rulings. Now, I would AD&D. I don't think it's. I don't think it's. I would say it's not an AD&D clone. Yeah, it's intended to be a lightweight. Well, we said it's not rules light. But yes, Trey knows, says there are some unique aspects to Nimble, but it was based on 5e GM wanting to streamline his game. For an example of a change that was overly wordy and technical, look at the rules for dual wielding. The rules do not go into deep detail about attacking with different sized weapons and multiple instances of disadvantage in other edge cases. Oh, I want to come and think of it. When Trey is saying over here, that was Trey, right? Oh no, that was Mike. Mike said, love the idea that they trust the GM and tables not to be foolish with rules and rulings. When he was talking about this multi-classing right here, because it does talk about, okay, we're balancing classes here. We didn't look at multi-class rules, but okay, so there must be some multi-class rules in that book that we were looking at last week. You're going to exponentially complicate your work if you're also trying to balance not only the classes themselves, but all possible multi-class combinations. And so this basically says don't do it. And so then, that also comes up when there are multiple books and things like that. Like, okay, so the philosophy might be, okay, balance to the core book, right? Balance to the core book, because it's not realistic if you're doing play testing or something like that anyway to say, okay, we got to balance this and play test this with all possible combinations of everything in every book. Yes, that sometimes means that, and I think that's the way that Dungeons and Dragons did it for a long time, and maybe still does it, because it's like, okay, we can't expect playtesters to run this by every book, every combination of everything that's in every book. And in fact, a playtest should be the core book and this book that we're working with. And that's what it should be. And then, yes, then sometimes you end up with some crazy things that happen if you try to use, if I use this from this book and this from this book and this from this book and that from that book, it was never balanced that way. You come up with something crazy, but it's saying, okay, well, we're not doing that. Just leave it to the table to say we're not doing that. So dual wielding, we're talking about. These rules do not go into deep detail about attacking with different sized weapons and multiple instances of disadvantage in other edge cases. A simple example is given, and the GM can adjudicate any edge case with the rules given. Additional clarity, if such is needed, can be supplied in sidebars or an FAQ. Simple rules followed by an example or FAQ in call-out boxes is often better than overly wordy core mechanics. Making it bite-sized helps with information transmission. We should aim for brevity even when clarity isn't an issue. For example, here's a comparison of how one feature was initially worded versus how it ended up in the book. So the old version was key attribute increase. You may increase one of your key attributes, strength or dex, by +1. Now it just says key stat increase, +1 strength or +1, or +1 strength or dex. Stat is clearer and shorter than attribute, as long as I guess they are actually the same thing in your game. And we can cut out an entire sentence communicating the same idea with much fewer words. It may take a few rounds of revisions to hone your wording, but it's worth it. Naming classes. Use name classes that do not have lots of built-in preconceptions. Okay, now we noticed that the classes in this game do have like different names. This will free you from explaining why your warlock or your sorcerer works this way instead of how it's supposed to work. Stats and how it's supposed to work in quotes there. Stat, skills, and equipment proficiencies. Be very careful handing out shield and wand proficiency. They are very good. Likewise with plate and mail armor proficiency, but to a lesser extent. So I also love this. Average hero stats. Hero level going down to 20. This does have 20 levels in it. Hero HP, hero armor, effective HP, and damage per turn. So average hero stats armor, this takes into account equipment and other defensive abilities such as Ice Shield. Effective HP, the base combat math assumes heroes on average spend 1 action defensively per turn. This number includes the hero's armor times the average number of rounds in an encounter. See below. Damage per turn. This assumes 2 actions per turn are spent offensively. Some classes will output less damage, but they can aid combat in other useful ways. Others could output more if the situation is ideal. Area of attack abilities, etc. This need not be a target per se, but if your numbers are very far off from this, you should have a reason for it. Average combat length, it says. Looking for Mom. Hey, Looking for Mom says, what are your thoughts on the kit so far? I love it. I wish that a lot more games had something like this that explains their philosophy and stuff like that, and the spirit of the game for the purposes of design. Like I said, this is the first one that I've ever seen, and that's why I wanted to be sure to go over it. So, yeah, I love it, and I wish that every game that had an open license had something like this. I really do. So here's to you, Looking for Mom. First time I believe I've seen you in the comments, so here's to you. So average combat length. Typical encounter math assumes 3 to 4 rounds of combat, or for legendary encounters, 15 hero turns. If an encounter lasts much longer than that, it may start to feel like a slog. Much shorter, and players may not have time to see the payoff to their setup and may be disappointed. Again, these are not hard rules. Some of the most fun is when we deviate from the average and make sure that you're doing it on purpose and for good reason. Oh, later, Exile. Designing monsters. Monsters should not be simply differently shaped bags of hit points. Each different kind of monster, even with identical stats, should feel different to fight. Their tactics, how they deal damage, how they avoid it, etc. Monster groups, kobolds, goblins, bandits, should share an ability that all monsters of that type have. It should be simple, but give off a big sense of flavor for that monster. Goblins laugh at you when you miss. Kobolds are getting stabby when you kill their friends. Kobolds get stabby when you kill their friends. Bandits are crafty and particularly don't want to die. Each of these will make players engage with them differently and use different tactics. In order for a heroic party to be able to have variety in their encounters with a monster group and be able to encounter them at varying levels, each monster group should have a fairly wide band of monster levels. For example, kobolds are level 1/3 to level 1, whereas snake men are level 1 to level 8. Don't feel the need to cover every level, especially if a monster's nature doesn't allow them to reasonably scale up or down to low or high levels. Giants, for instance, their lowest level may be in the double digits, and that's okay. We haven't looked exactly how that works. Okay, monster roles. Okay, now that we have not gotten this. Monster groups should also have creatures that can fulfill a variety of roles: melee, ranged, controller, area of attack, summoner, striker, ambusher, etc. A GM need not even be aware of these. The design of each monster should make the optimal play pattern obvious. Some creatures can fulfill multiple roles for flexibilities. Goblins are equally good at ranged melee, for instance. So melee, most effective when toe-to-toe. Ranged, most effective at range. Controller hampers the heroes, low damage. Support primarily boost the damage or abilities of their allies. Area of attack, damage to multiple heroes at a time. Summoner, summonings additional monsters to the battlefield. Striker, high damage, low survivability. Ambusher, not immediately visible when combat begins. Defender, high survivability, low damage. It says, don't leave the GM wondering what to do. Give the GM a hand, make it as easy as possible to run the monster. Monsters should always either have one action to perform or one clear best action to perform. For instance, a troll can use either claws or bite. Bite deals far more damage, but it requires a creature to be prone. Claws can knock prone. The order of operations is immediately clear. Use claw until someone falls down, then bite. Note also the Troll's 2 attacks use the same die size to make running it easier and smoother for the GM. The one attack's damage is clearly much better than the other. Claw is 1d4 plus 10. Bite is 1d4 plus 20. If Claw instead was 64 bite and bite was 1d4 plus 20, it'd be much less obvious which one is stronger. I think that's an excellent point too. Monsters that will commonly fight together will ideally use all of the same dice. Goblins use D6s, kobolds use D4s. This helps prevent the GM from needing to search for lots of different dice at the table. It's a very little thing, but every way we can make the GM's job easier and remove mental headache for them means that we have more capacity for strategy, role-playing, lobbing insults, jokes, and telling an interesting story. I do love the philosophy of this. Causing effect other than damage is a great way to distinguish between different kinds of monsters, even when they have the same HP and their attacks deal the same amount of average damage. These are by no means exhaustive, but for starters, automatic. Hit or miss. Some effects happen. Think of a shockwave from a giant strike. Even if it misses or a hero defends, you might still get pushed back or knocked prone. On a hit, an effect happens, even if all the damage is reduced to 0. Grappled or restrained by a huge bug, snake man, or a plant creature. So that's different than rolling a 1. An effect happens even if, so you could not roll a 1, the damage is still 0, but on a hit, something still happens because it wasn't a 1. On damage, what could uniquely happen when blood is drawn? Even one single point of damage. Think about poison blades from an assassin, a deathly touch from a wraith. On crit miss, what could happen if a monster's attack succeeds wildly? They could be knocked prone, dazed. They could even swallow the hero entirely. You could even have some powerful effect, even in place of rolling additional damage. On death, on crit or a miss. Yeah. So there's a lot of options, even though you're only rolling damage. I mean, I think this is a great point. Even though you're only rolling the damage die, you've got a whole bunch of different options like this. Okay, because the damage die is going to tell you hit or miss. It's not going to tell you how much damage directly because the opponent might defend. So there might be something there. But something can happen automatically if you're hit, if you are damaged, on a critical hit, on a miss, or on death. Take care of how these creatures are taken. Care must be taken how these creatures are taken down. Plant creatures full of acid, explosive fire elements. These creatures, their allies could get free movement or attacks. Oh, look, avoid monsters that heal. We've talked about this quite a bit. Another one. Mike says it opens up creativity for each of these triggers. It does. So, like, avoid monsters that heal. Subtracting and adding HP is fiddly. Monsters can be given armor, more HP, or other defensive abilities. Instead, giving the same flavor, but with reduced mechanics. And also the I talked about when it seemed like we're designing a game, and you've got a bunch of healing that everybody has to take down the healers first. Or, especially if the healing is unlimited, then the game has some type of, a potential unlimited horizon number of turns. If the healers aren't taken out, the hit points, if they're always going down, is putting a time limit on the turns, which is nice. He even talks about, okay, there should be some general average limit to the number of times or number of turns you're going to be going through combat, like 3 to 4. And descending HP does that. I mean, that puts a timer on it. So, and you don't want there to be something like, okay, well, the first turn we're not actually fighting because this guy's got to buff this guy and that guy's got to buff this guy, and then we'll always heal as soon as you take damage. So I agree with that. Avoid, is that kiting or kidding? I think it's kiting. Avoid kiting monsters. Oh yeah, avoid kiting monsters. Monsters that constantly run away from heroes and permanently stay just out of range can be more frustrating than fun. Flying monsters are notorious for this kind of mechanic. Flying also adds a third dimension that can be hard to physically portray at the table. Monsters should at least spend some time in the danger zone. getting close to heroes or landing in order to attack. Skirmishers and flying monsters are less frustrating at higher levels as heroes gain more tools to deal with it. For wall ceiling crawling monsters like spiders, ensure ways to knock them down, damage, critical hits, or destroying their webs. Trey says, upcoming section, Nimble Speak, legendary monster is more or less the BBEG. Avoid complex individual monsters. Each monster should be very simple to run with a crystal clear, this is what I do on my turn, for the GM to execute. Monster groups as a whole should feel tactically unique and complex without any of the parts being complex. Consider how these different monsters will be mixed together. Yes, an individual goblin or kobold isn't particularly interesting to fight, but that will never happen. They only exist in the context of other kobolds and goblins. Avoid being too detailed or too brief. Each stat block should contain enough information to get it easily, but not so much the important bits get lost in a sea of text. Let's take a look at a goblin boss stat block in a few different tabletop RPGs. Okay, so we're comparing here. Okay, so the first stat block to the left was this, this looks like 5e to me, goblin boss. So the first stat block to the left is a bit too verbose. It would take a new GM a long time to sort through all that information, and even experienced GMs risk missing something important in the longer stat block. That certainly happened to me when I was playing with the nephews. The other above is much more concise, but perhaps a tad too brief. A newcomer looking at it may find all of the abbreviations too cryptic. We should strive for a stat block that's both concise and easy to read. See the Nimble equivalent stat block below. So, all of this stuff versus this. Yes, and I would have to look up. Okay, wait a minute. I guess I is supposed to be intelligence and stuff. AL, attack. I'm not even sure what AL is. Level 1. Where's this right here? Goblin Taskmaster. Level 2, small. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it's a shield. So if M and 30, maybe that's the hit points. Meat shield can force other goblins to interpose for him. Stab 1d6 plus 2 or shoot range 8. Then get me in here. Call a goblin minion to the fight. Get in here. Call a goblin minion to the fight. We've been going for an hour. Let's see. So helpful GM guidance. Oh, and then legendary monsters. Okay, let's look at that. I've got a bunch to do today, but I'm enjoying going through this. So let's keep going for a little bit. Helpful GM guidance. Help the GM as much as possible. Any lore, tactics, or twists they don't like, they can ignore or change. It's better to supply usable ideas rather than make the GM come up with it themselves. Include some basic background information for the GMs to work with. This helps distinguish the monster group from other monsters and with similar stats. Lore. Interesting and practical information that how to do these monsters. Interesting and practical information that how do these monsters interact with one another? What is their society like? Who is in charge? What do they want? Some ideas for the GM and heroes to say, oh, that's cool. Give specific info and on each monster too. Loot. Thematic items when the heroes say, I loot the corpse. This need not be a magical item, but feel free to include role-playing items and quest-related items. Pre-made encounters. Themed pre-made groups of monsters grouped by party level. Brief information on how they interact with one another and the heroes in the battlefield. Each one should feel mechanically and thematically different. Increasing the difficulty. Optimal tactics designed to make the GM feel like a mastermind. Explain the subtleties of any interaction of your monster stat blocks. Decreasing the difficulty. How to run these monsters in a subtly suboptimal way to ease up on the heroes when the GM has overtuned an encounter or when the heroes are particularly unlucky or playing poorly. Names, what to say in combat. For monsters that talk in combat, give the GM some seeds with what to work with. And then also defeat and parley, alternative options for the GM rather than a total party kill. What could the monsters do if they are losing? So this is legendary monster. So this is like your big bad evil guy. Oh, shield. Oh, the shield is shield M is medium armor. That's right, because they don't have. That's the way for monsters to do their armor, so that they have medium armor, which gives them like resistance or something like that, because they don't use the defend action. All right, so when fighting the big bad evil guy, legendary monsters. If it's important for regular combat encounters to be easy to run, and it is, then it's even more so for legendary monsters. Having overly complex legendary monsters can be especially bad because these are often the climax of a multi-hour session or even potentially a years-long campaign. If the big bad evil guy is a cakewalk or an unintended TPK because the GM missed some fine point in the stat block, that's going to sting even more deeply. Legendary monsters must be easy to run at a glance. Avoid the temptation toward too many mechanics that interrupt the flow or those that are too fiddly. Tension of battle. What makes for an interesting battle is uncertainty. If the bad guy is clearly winning and the heroes have no hope, it's not much fun. Likewise, the heroes are clearly always winning and the bad guy has no hope, the excitement dampens. The most fun is where there are moments where it looks like the battle can go either way. At some portions of the fight, the heroes should be winning, typically early in the fight, only for the bad guy to make a sudden comeback, bloodied and last stand. How exciting. The HP damage values on the legendary monsters chart in the GMG allow the heroes to have an edge in the first half of the fight, and then for the bad guy's bloodied effect to shift the tide of the battle temporarily. The last stand should be a very dangerous situation to be in for more than just a few turns. This is when the heroes can go all out to clinch a win. Change it up. If you want to vary this cadence, you certainly can. You can make the boss extra difficult in the beginning, only for a severe weakness to show up when bloodied, just in time for the heroes to rally. I like adding structure to the combat like that. All right. So the math behind a legendary encounter assumes roughly 15 hero turns to get to the last stand. So a party of 3 heroes is expected to get roughly 5 turns. A party of 5 heroes are expected to get 3 turns each. That hero turns. Okay, not whole rounds of the game. That's also probably a good way to do it because of different numbers of people in the party. Legendary monster, HP, and armor. All other things being equal, it's recommended that a legendary monster have medium armor. If it's unarmored, make sure you compensate their survivability in some other way. See Dravok, All-Seeing Tyrant in the GMG. An entire fight against a heavily armored enemy can feel frustratingly slow. If they do have heavy armor, make sure you're careful to give some weakness that can be taken advantage of, or make it degrade as the fight goes on, or improve to heavy from lower armor level. The HP of a legendary monster with medium armor uses a multiplier of 80% compared to unarmored. Heavy armor uses a multiplier of 60%. So an unarmored monster, so an unarmored monster is like, what direction is that supposed to be going? An unarmored monster with 100 HP is roughly equivalent to one with a medium armor and 80 HP and 60 HP with heavy. Low levels. The legendary monster table in the GMG already accounts for low levels since heroes tend to have fewer ways to deal with armor then. Give a script. Possibly more important than the stats and mechanics with legendary monsters is the story. Don't forget that combat is a great place, possibly the best, to interject memorable story beats. No need to write everything a legendary monster might say, but giving the GM a few lines to taunt the heroes is good fun. What do they say when they crit a hero? When do they drop a hero to 0 HP? When they drop a hero to 0 HP? When they are bloodied or hit their last stand? Do they negotiate or do they taunt the heroes about releasing an even greater evil with their death? Do they alone have information the heroes desperately want? Egg the heroes on, make it memorable. Here's an example from the Vanishing Caravans adventure in the GMG. Opening attack. You should have taken my offer. Now I'm afraid I'll have to make this hurt. On a crit. Oh, did that sting? Good. I want you to remember it. Gaining the upper hand. I'm almost starting to feel bad for you. Almost. Bloodied. You think this is over? I'm just getting warmed up. Last stand. Did you really think that I'd fight fair? You have no idea who you're dealing with. On death. You think this ends with me? You're in deeper than you know. You've just made enemies in very high places. It's kind of cool. Skeleton headed dragon, skull faced dragon. Let's see. We've got some notes on magic items here. Let's see. What do we say here? How much more have we got here? Spell framework. We didn't really get into spells. Adventure framework. Oh, we do have adventure framework. Oh, look, book size. Yeah, it is A5. Right here, it says right here, as far as nimble trade dress. Let's see. Well, let's go back up to the magic items. Let's take a look at magic items. Magic items says we'll skip over spells since we didn't really get into spell casting anyway. But I am interested in the philosophy of magic items. Let's see if we can find the philosophy of the magic items. Unlike in other tabletop RPGs, magic items, for instance, weapons, are not needed for classes to output the expected amount of damage across the level curve. Magic items instead should be thought of as a way to add interest to the story by giving the heroes more options to make choices that matter. Magic items should always inspire choices. So we're not having to, when you're worrying about the classes or balancing classes, you're not trying to worry about, oh, you've got to have, you're expecting to have a certain magic item by this time. Don't have to add that complication. Magical items should always inspire choices, deepen the story, or enhance the fun, never just inflate power. Magical items should shore up weaknesses. These items are best given to allow heroes to make the choices that are most fun for them. For instance, a group of friends who all want to play the same class. It's not the most tactically wise decision, but it might be what they find fun. These items can make that more possible, or at least less punishing. Some party compositions may need help healing or doing other magical things that a more balanced party could already naturally do. Improve a strength. The cheat's magic dagger could grant a shadow step ability, or teleport short distances, or a mage's staff could enhance their favorite spell. Both ideally at a cost. Hey, see you later, Trey. Trey says I have to head out. Please, everyone, have a great day. This game surprised me with how much I like it. It fixes many issues I've had with D20 games. Let's see. So improve a wrinkle, cause a wrinkle. No, improve a strength, cause a wrinkle. Hook in the story, like starting a new quest. Decoration, a dwarven axe carved with runes and silver inlay, or a scholar's robe that shimmers with arcane threads. Prestige, grant titles or similar symbols of renown, like the Knight of the Crimson Order. A get out of jail free card, basically items that bypass obstacles or grant favors, such as the Duke's signet ring, the secret handshake of a thieves guild, or a tattoo respected by the city guard. Push your luck, a weapon that can deal extra damage or give you an ability but backfire. If used too frequently or on a miss, something happens. It says add silliness, include lighthearted items for fun and flavor, temporary or consumable items, a legendary artifact that must be given back later, spell scrolls, wands, and potions. Consumables in particular make for great items, but some heroes are very hesitant to actually use them. If they're available enough and affordable enough, this can be greatly ameliorated. But adventures can add some expiration date. But the adventure can add some expiration date, a healing ice crystal that's melting, or some other catch, like just working in this dungeon. Grant a unique power. Should you have loot heroes can both purchase and it says you should have loot heroes can both purchase and find. When would you give either? Buy flat bonus items. Armor upgrades, bigger sword can give heroes a sense of progression. They're a good reward for heroes who save up their gold and can upgrade a piece of equipment. A lot of the fun for these is not so much as having them, but looking forward to buying them. So they're most rewarding when saved up for and bought, not found. Even more so if the vendor can customize it for them. Find or given other magical equipment is most rewarding when found or rewarded, not bought. Prestige rewards are likewise best when they are given as a reward for heroism. A purchased title is worthless. A duke's title bestowed due to bravery. A title bestowed due to bravery is priceless and can be game-changing. So, it says here about better and worse. Mike says, the idea that magic weapons are not flat better but offer some type of benefit is a solid approach. I agree. And it does take out the need to try to balance all of that. So strictly better is strictly worse. No item should be strictly better than all others in all situations. A dagger is sometimes better than a short sword when you value crits above missing, vice versa. Even for equipment that is clearly better, like the tower shield, is better than the wooden buckler. One costs 4 more than the other and has a strength requirement to compensate. If you design a new shield, it should have some benefits and drawbacks the existing shields don't have. Take, for example, the tower shield, which requires 3 strength and 6 armor. How can we modify this base item? So the ethereal tower shield We could reduce the strength requirement, but only if we make it cost more, block for less, or have some reason that's not strictly better than the regular tower shield. The junky tower shield. We can make this one block for the same amount, but instead cost much less, but maybe it breaks when crit. Flying tower shield. While worn, perhaps this tower shield allows the hero to fly, but it requires mana or saps HP, or causes wounds that can't defend when imposing when flying. Items can be better in certain situations, but never strictly better. Otherwise, we rob the heroes of meaningful choices, both when selecting gear during combat. Do they prioritize durability, cost, or unique ability? These choices enhance player agency and keep the game interesting. By designing items with clear trade-offs, we can allow meaningful decisions rather than automatic ones. Yeah, automatic decisions about, oh, it's always take this. That's always bad. I agree. Especially if all the players are doing the same thing, because this is the best way to go. So they do have spell framework next, which we had not looked at spells. Here is adventure framework. Okay, let's see what that is, because we've talked about the 5-room dungeon and so forth. We're getting close to the end of this, and so rather than having to come back to the creator's kit here, let's just finish up here. So adventure framework probably got some good information here. Emphasize tight writing, no extra stuff. Full sentences are neither necessary nor recommended. Prioritize brevity so the text can be quickly scanned at a glance and repeated in the GM's own words rather than read like a script. Components of a tight adventure. Total adventure length. We even have a word limit here, or estimated word. Right. If X is always better, like Mike is saying, if X is always better, then taking X isn't a choice. So for a tight adventure, 1,200 to 2,000 words. Cool, evocative name should get the GM excited to run it and the heroes excited to play it. What really happened? Adventure background. This is for the GM to read beforehand. It should contain secrets the hero can discover as they play. Think of adventures as mysteries that can be solved as the heroes delve further into it. What is the mystery problem? How is it solved as we play? That's in 100 words. 2 to 3 adventure hooks. Different factions who ask, different rewards promised. This makes it easier to slot into a wide variety of campaigns. 100 words. 2 to 4 treasures. Not all will be found or given. Not necessarily powerful magic items. Interesting things could be used creatively. Some simple, maybe one powerful one. 100 words. Exploration events. 2 to 4 traveling events and 2 to 300 words. Complications and interesting things that happen along the way that the players can respond to. Foreshadowing a monster, getting lost, overcoming an obstacle, learning some backstory, motivate the heroes. These bad guys are really bad because, etc. These set the stage for the adventuring environment. How is this place different from the others? For example, in a desert, how can we make the heroes feel the struggle with the heat? Can we do something with mirages, lack of water, sandstorms, anything else to make it feel like the desert? In a forest, do they get lost in the dense undergrowth? Are they hunted by beasts? Are they caught in goblin traps? Are they tricked by a fairy? Can they ask the forest animals for aid? In the sewers, how bad does it smell? What effect does it have? Anything else unique about these particular sewers? Do the rats talk? Does the water contain magical runoff? This says 6 to 10 dungeon rooms. Doesn't have to be a literal dungeon. Could be a grove, palace, ruin, ravine, cave, sewer, hideout, airship, etc. This is the meat of the adventure in 6 to 1,200 words, 50 to 100 words per room. Each room must have a name and a description, a few words of descriptive text, max 1 sentence. The idea is the GM can quickly scan this description and use it as the prompt for the heroes to begin interacting with the area and asking questions. What do they immediately see here, etc. Give enough information for the heroes to start playing, but no more. Additional bullets, 2 to 4 additional things to interact with, accomplish, learn, etc. These contain the answers to questions the players will ask, the challenge present, and bits of interest. What do they do here? Room contents. A trap obstacle problem. The point of these rooms is to allow space for creativity and secondarily to expend resources. Traps and obstacles should almost always be obvious. Failing to successfully navigate it can result in damage, wounds, conditions, alert others, make an enemy, loss of treasure, only as of yet unobtained treasure. Be very cautious when taking away treasure the heroes have already earned. These rooms can be designed with no particular solution. Let the heroes come up with a solution. Information. Foreshadowing information about the themes or direction of the adventure. These rooms can raise questions or provide ready answers to existing questions. It says avoid info dumps. Unloading a large amount of exposition all at once, often automatically and without the request of the heroes. Make sure the heroes initiate any information you give to them and spread the information throughout the dungeon. So a combat encounter, each encounter should be scaled per hero so the GM doesn't need to adjust any numbers. What are the baddies doing when the heroes come? Not simply standing around. Combat can be the obvious answer, but not necessarily the only answer. NPCs, some to fight, but also to rescue, negotiate with, buy from, ally with, etc. Dilemmas. If you take this path, you can't take the other path. If you ally with this faction, you cannot ally with the other, etc. Weird things. Crystals that produce anti-light. Mind-controlling fungus. Walls made of hands. Paintings with eyes that follow rooms with no sound. Rooms with no sounds. Feet smells. Feel smells. Feet smells. Maximize player agency. Rather than being strictly linear, there should be some opportunity to meaningfully choose this way or that way. Multiple ways to solve traps and puzzles, optional rooms, multiple entrances, secret passages, etc. Ending. The end of a dungeon should have a satisfying climax. Typically, this means it culminates in a boss battle of some sort. Not always, but usually. Any cool loot the boss has, expect the heroes to want to take. Adventures can end with negotiation, a plot twist, etc. Aftermath, what happens when we return to town? Maps. Ideally, an adventure will also include a map or simple flow chart of rooms. Make it simple enough the layout could be drawn on the spot on a dry erase mat. Many players have trouble visualizing things in their minds, so help them out. Extra notes. Think of things that you'd like to create as you're reading through the adventure to prep running. Or think of any notes you'd create as if you were running the adventure. Simple role-playing ideas, monster stat blocks, etc. If it's helpful for you, consider adding that to the adventure and clarifying whatever is needed. Do as much to prep for the GM as possible. Then we do have trade dress. It says the A5 size, 5 by 8.3 by 8.2 inches, is common for printing and is easily handleable at half the size of many other common D20 books, which seems like a lot of things that people are going to. I mean, we've got a lot of these now, right? I mean, that's what index is. They're either that or 9x6, right? Index card, Shadow Dark, Nimble here. A lot of the Fate stuff was like that a long time ago, and I think it's actually 9x6. They're comfortably compact and fit behind the GM screen easily. They are not too heavy and large to have you take with you or share at the table. The size constraints of the A5 page encourages economy of words rather than writing too much to fill the page. Most of the time, my writing was spent editing down or removing words so they would actually fit on the page or spread without wrapping to a new one. It's a much more approachable format for readers, new and old, less intimidating due to its diminutive size. The constraints of the size and the form factor are actually a huge blessing. A 2-column layout. This saves space for new paragraphs by not filling an entire line. You can typically fit roughly 25% more content per A5 page by using 2 columns, and allows for easier scanning. Justification and hyphenation provides for a neater layout with a small, tight layout. Instead of extra space between paragraphs, secondary paragraphs are indented. Sometimes you just need to squeeze one more line to a page, and these choices allow for that as well. Headlines use Beaufort Pro Heavy. This big, bold, chunky font has fantasy vibes and makes for easy scanning. The body uses Avenir Next Condensed at a size of 9.5 font. Condensed fonts are a great fit for fitting more content on a page when it matters without sacrificing legibility. Especially when using a 2-column layout, the width of the font matters far more than anything else. More words per line is important to reduce the needless usage of page space, enables more flexibility of justification, as well as fewer hyphens and ragged ends. Imagery and art. The amount of art and quality of imagery greatly depends on your budget, but aim to have a piece of spot art on each spread and a big splash of art every 2 to 3 spreads. Art helps mark pages like a guidepost when looking for it later, helps set the vibes, and ease the burden of reading giant walls of text to the first-time readers by breaking it up into more bite-sized chunks. Assuming you are not an artist, the cost of art can vary dramatically. See the chart below for common ranges for pieces of art. Licensed stock art, $1 to $20, all the way to commissioning a big piece from a big artist, like $3,000 to $7,000. All right, final thoughts. You made it to the end. Well done. You've got the keys to what makes Nimble tick. Fast, fun, fluid play. But knowing isn't the goal. Creating is. So don't wait for the perfect idea or the right moment to make something today. Start small, start weird, just start. Whether it's a scrappy subclass, a wild adventure, or a rad monster. What to do with your creation. Enjoy it with your friends at your own table, give it away to others, or even sell it and make a lot of money. You could also submit it to the Nimble Design Jam contest for feedback and a chance to be included in a future official Nimble release. Whatever you do, we'd love to see what you come up with. Join the Nimble Discord and show it off. Ask questions, get feedback, inspire, and be inspired. So there we go. So yes, Mike says this was a solid document and super helpful to understanding the design approach. I agree. I loved it. I wish more had it. So yes, I think that is an absolutely critical part of Nimble, and I'm really glad that we have it. Lots of stuff in there that I completely agree with, and a lot of stuff that we've talked about on many of these live streams. All right, well, I am out of here. There's a lot of stuff to do, but I will keep everybody posted, especially if something happens in the Discord server, like books show up or something, but I'm not really expecting them right now. Later, everybody, have a wonderful day. Go forth, be creative, and be constructive. Later, everybody.